Dawn breaks over Albulina like a blade drawn across the sky. The first light is cold, sharp, merciless, revealing a valley that looks less like a battlefield and more like the aftermath of a storm that tried to erase everything in its path. Crows circle low. The river runs red in slow swirling ribbons. On through the mist, Skanderbeg walks forward, every step heavy, every breath carrying the taste of victory and lust tangled together. The roar of battle is gin, but something far more unsettling remains: silence. Knit peace, knit relief. A silence that asks a question even the victors are afraid to answer. What did this victory truly cost? His men move carefully around him, lifting the wounded, gathering the fallen, touching the cold faces of friends they had shared bread with only a day before. Skanderbeg pauses, his gaze drifting across broken shields on shattered spears, and he feels the weight of a truth no messenger will ever carry to Venice or Rome. Europe may celebrate this triumph, but only Albania knows its price. Yet in that quiet valley, in the damp breath of morning, there is also something else, something fragile, trembling, alive, a reminder that even the smallest nation can make the world tremble when its people refuse to kneel. And if the battles of forgotten valleys like this move you, if you want to feel where courage and history meet in the shadows of mountains, stay with us. There are many more moments waiting to be uncovered. To understand what will unfold in Albulina, you must understand the world that demands it. In the mid-15th century, Europe is fractured like old glass. Kings quarrel over crowns. Princes weave schemes behind silk curtains. Cities feud against cities. And across this landscape of divided powers rises a single unstoppable force, the Ottoman Empire. Relentless in ambition, unmatched in discipline, driven by the strategic brilliance of Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople. In 1453, when the walls of the great city shatter under the thunder of Ottoman cannons, Europe trembles as if witnessing the end of an age. Constantinople, the heart of a millennium-old empire, collapses into silence. Churches darken, streets fill with smoke. An emperor dies fighting in his broken walls. The world changes. And north of that fallen jewel lies a land too small to matter to kings, too proud to disappear into the shadow of an empire. Albania, a country coved from mountains, harsh, beautiful, unkinked, a place where villages cling to cliffs like stubborn scars on every river, every stone face, every meadow has seen blood. For decades this land has resisted the empire's advance, not through power, but through will. And at the center of this defiance stands a man caught between two worlds. As a child, Gegurj Kastriati was taken hostage, sent to the Sultan's palace, trained in Turkish language, warcraft, discipline. They named him Iskender Bey, Lord Alexander, entering him as though he were a new Alexander the Great. Under the crescent, he commanded troops, led campaigns, and earned admiration as one of the empire's finest warriors. But loyalty forged in captivity fractures easily. One day, Skanderbeg broke from the crescent and returned to his homeland. He seized the fortress of Kruja, raised the black double-headed eagle of Albania, and became a symbol of rebellion. For 20 years he fought the empire he once served. His victories became legend, his strategies celebrated, his name whispered across Europe. But Albania suffered. Harvests failed, villages burned, allies shifted away. And then came the disaster at Berat in 1455, where Skanderbeg, overconfident, marched too far and fell into an Ottoman trap. His forces were shattered. Survivors dragged themselves into the mountains. Rumors spread that he was finished. But the deepest wound came not from soldiers but from family. Hamza Kastrioti, his nephew, raised like a son, brilliant and ambitious, betrayed him. Seduced by promises of gold and titles, Hamza pledged loyalty to Sultan Mehmed II. And with a cold command, the Sultan sent him north to extinguish Albania once and for all. This campaign is no longer about punishment. It is erasure. 40,000 men march not to defeat an enemy, but to bury a nation. And Albania stands alone. No Venice, no Naples, no help, only mountains, only memory, only Skanderbeg. Skanderbeg rides through valleys he has known since childhood, valleys burned by years of war, valleys where the bones of friends, enemies, and kin lay hidden beneath the soil. He studies every ridge, every contour, every whisper of wind. He listens not as a general, but as a man who knows mountains speak. Between two forested ridges, he finds the perfect place. Albulina, a narrow throat of stone. A gauge so tight that even the hooves of horses echo with tension. A place where 40,000 men would choke in their own confidence. A place where 8,000 could strike with the fury of 20,000. He sends messengers. Church bells ring 3 times through every valley. Farmers hide their families in forests. Shepherds descend from high cliffs with spears older than memory. Blacksmiths reopen their forges, sparks rising into the cold air. Women prepare food, oil armor, whisper prayers. Monks walk from tent to tent holding relics. Albania awakens, but it awakens in silence. Pits are dug along the narrow path, covered with branches on soil to look like untouched ground. Tree trunks the size of ships are positioned in slopes held by ropes on wedges. Boulders are stacked behind ridges. Archers mark vantage points high among the pines. Scouts report the distant tremble of the earth as the Ottoman army approaches. Fig thickens until soldiers can't see 10 steps ahead. Even the horses are kept quiet, nostrils stroked gently to prevent anxious neighing. Skanderbeg walks among his men in the dim mornings. His armor is dented, his hair streaked with gray, his voice low steady. Stay hidden, wait for the moment, do not break silence. The fig becomes a wall, the earth begins to vibrate. The sound rises slowly, like the growl of a distant storm, then louder, then unmistakable. Hooves, drums, wagons. The Ottoman army enters the valley. The scouts report nothing unusual. Their officers laugh. They believe Albania is broken, scattered, fleeing. Hamza rides at the front, armored, proud, eyes fixed in the mountains he once called home. He has no idea that the land he betrayed now waits above him. The silence grows unsettling. No birds. No wind. No smoke from village chimneys, only the clatter of armor. Something is wrong. But it is too late. The column stretches miles deep. They can't turn back. Skanderbeg places his hand in the ground, feels its pulse, and whispers to the mountain. The moment has come. It begins not with the roar of armies, but with a tremor, a subtle vibration through the ground that Skanderbeg feels through the soles of his boots as he crouches behind a pine tree. His hand tightens around the hilt of his sword. Every nerve is awake, every instinct sharpened. The moment he has spent weeks preparing for presses against the edge of the world, like a held breath. He closes his eyes for half a heartbeat. He sees Berat. He sees his men crushed. He sees Hamza's face the day the boy he raised chose gold over blood. He sees Albania burning. And he whispers to himself, barely a sound this time, no mistakes. He opens his eyes. The feg curls around him like a living creature, cooled in his cheeks, carrying the scent of pine sap, damp soil, on the iron edge of coming violence. Below, the Ottoman column stretches endlessly through the gorge. 40,000 men, the empire's pride. Men trained in the same discipline he once mastered under the banas. Men he once commanded. Men he now must destroy. His chest tightens, knit with fear, with responsibility, with the crushing weight of understanding that if he fails, Albania dies. He raises his hand. The world breaks. A thunderous crack explodes behind the Ottoman rear as the massive trees his men cut on rig during the night come crashing down like the falling pillars of a collapsing temple. The trunks slam into the narrow path, crushing riders on wagons, sealing the retreat so completely that not even a rabbit could pass. The sound echoes through the valley like the judgment of the earth itself. Officers shout. Horses rear. Panic slashes through the column. And Skanderbeg thinks, good, let fear be the first blow. Then the mountains answer his call. Boulders, stacked meticulously in hidden crevices, roll down in carefully timed avalanches. The strategy is perfect. Not a random slide, but a sequence, first left ridge, then right ridge, then the ridges above the center, creating a rhythm of destruction that breaks the Ottoman lines not by brute force, but by precision. Stones smash shields, snap spines, pin men under their weight. The Turks try to scatter, but the Gauge AFS no room to flee. And before they can breathe, the second phase begins. Arrows blacken the sky. 5 villies in rapid succession, each villi timed to catch soldiers as they lift shields to look, as they lower them to breathe, as they attempt to reorganize. The timing is perfect. Skanderbeg calculated every second, every angle, every echo bouncing between the cliffs. Thousands of arrows rain down in a storm of iron. They punch through armor, tear open throats, rip into eyes. The screams bounce between stone walls, twisted by echo into something almost inhuman. Skandabeg watches with cold focus, but inside him something burns, rage mixed with sorrow, fury intertwined with duty. He never wanted this life, never wanted endless killing, never wanted to turn mountains into weapons, but he knows the truth coved into his bones. Only violence can stop the empire. Only brutality can protect a people too small for mercy. He murmurs, "Forgive me," though he does not know if he speaks to Gidao, his homeland, or the ghosts he carries inside. Then he signals the third phase. Pits open beneath the feet of the advancing janissaries, perfectly placed, invisible until the moment they collapse. Men on horses plunge downward. Their screams pierce the valley. Skandabeg feels the shock as if the earth itself inhales sharply in pain. The Turks try to regroup. Officers shout commands, but the gorge betrays them. The terrain, his true ally, tightens around them like a wolf's jaws. The column can't turn, can't maneuver, can't breathe. And this is when Skandabeg reveals the teeth of the ambush. He unleashes his cavalry. They descend from the slopes like spirits of vengeance, riding along narrow paths, so steep any Ottoman horse would break its neck attempting the same. His men shout his name, Skandabeg, carrying it like a bottle drum louder than the thunder of hooves. Sabers slash downward, spears jab. Horses slam into the Turkish flanks with brutal force. This impact shreds the Ottoman lines down to the marrow. Blood splashes against stone. Mud becomes a red slurry that men slip in. The smell of iron, sweat, wet leather, and terror fills the air like smoke. Hamza sees it all. He recognizes the tactics. He recognizes the timing. He recognizes the hand behind the trap. He shouts for his janissaries to form a wedge and strike north. He believes, foolishly, that he can still break through. That discipline can defeat case. That numbers can overcome terrain. That he can outrun destiny. Skandabeg watches his nephew, and for the first time that day he feels something pierce the armor around his heart. It is not hatred. It is not anger. It is grief. Grief for the boy he trained, the boy he loved, the boy who chose to become the empire's hand. He whispers, "Hamza, why?" But his voice vanishes into rain. The Ottoman wedge pushes forward. Shields look, spears lower. The green banner of the crescent rises like a challenge. For a moment, Skandabeg feels the old fear rise in his throat. What if they break through? What if they escape? What if I fail again? He pushes the fear down. His voice turns to iron inside him. Knit today. He raises his hand again. On the mountains answer. A fresh wave of cavalry pours down the opposite slope. Archers release a deadly sixth volley, this one aimed not at the bulk of the army, but at the tip of the wedge, the heart of the formation, the single point holding Hamza's last hope together. Arrows strike shields, spears, ribs. Shields buckle. The wedge trembles. Skandabeg watches intently, studying the formation as if reading a book. He waits for the smallest collapse. The second a shield slips an inch, the moment a spear dips. Now, he whispers the word, and his captains shout it like thunder. Albanian warriors charge. The wedge implodes like a lung pierced open. The green banner falls. The Ottoman line collapses inward. Confusion becomes terror. Terror becomes madness. Night falls. Rain pours so heavily it feels as if the sky itself is grieving. Torches sputter, flicker, die. Darkness devours everything. Fighting becomes blind. Soldiers grapple in mud, stabbing at silhouettes, yelling names that can't be heard. Men die without seeing who kills them. Skandabeg moves through the darkness, breathing heavily, his sword dripping rain on blood together. He feels exhaustion claw at his bones. He feels the ghosts of Barat whisper at the edges of his mind. Knit enough. Knit enough. Do more. Finish it. But he forces himself to wait. The final blow must come at the exact right moment. Otherwise everything collapses. Midnight. A sudden silence falls, unnatural, chilling, absolute. Even the rain seems to pause. And in that terrible stillness Skandabeg feels the weight of history pressing in his shoulders. He whispers to himself, this ends tonight. Then horns sound. Win. Then 10. Then 100. The mountains erupt with torchlight. Flames pour down the slopes in rivers of fire. Albanian riders charge with torches burning in one hand and blades gleaming in the other. They descend like the wrath of heaven itself. The fire blinds the exhausted Ottoman soldiers. The blazing light shakes their pupils after hours trapped in darkness. Horses panic. Men shrink away from the flames. Tents ignite like dry leaves. Smoke rises in choking spirals. Arrows streak through the firelight with comet tails. Skandabeg leads the charge. His sword reflects the flames. His armor glows red in the torchlight. His shout cuts through the storm. In that moment he is not just a man, not a rebel, not a general, he is a force of nature, a living embodiment of a mountain country that refuses to die. Hamza makes one last attempt to escape. Mud traps the horses. Fire blicks the paths. Arrows rain from above. Skanderbeg sees him, his nephew, his student, his traitor, struggling to flee. And for a fraction of a heartbeat, he hesitates. Could I spare him? Could I pull him back from the darkness? But the moment passes. Mercy has no place here, nit tonight, nit in this valley, nit in this war. The gorge closes behind Hamza, and the screams fade into rain. By dawn, the valley lies silent. The trap is complete. The empire is broken. And Skanderbeg stands amid the biddies, exhausted, soaked, trembling, not from cold but from the weight of what he has done and what he will still have to do. For victory is never peace. Victory is only survival. And survival is a duty he must carry until his final breath. Dawn rises slowly over Albelina, not with triumph, but with a trembling kind of light, pale and uncertain, as if even the sun hesitates to look at what remains in the valley. A thin mist clings to the ground, swirling above mud soaked with rain on blood. Crows circle overhead, their wings cutting silent patterns in the sky. The river, swollen from the storm, runs red in places where the waters carry the last traces of night's violence. Skanderbeg rides slowly through the valley, his horse stepping between broken shields on fallen spears. His armor is heavy with mud, rain, and the weight of what he has done. Victory has a scent, iron on earth, and it clings to him like a second skin. His men walk behind him, silent. Even the youngest among them, those who had cheered at sunset, now move with the hollow-eyed quiet of people who understand that triumph always demands a terrible price. They bend to lift the wounded. They kneel to close the eyes of the dead. They whisper names under the breath, as if afraid the mountains might shatter if they speak too loudly. Skanderbeg watches them, and something deep inside him twists, not pride, not sorrow, but a painful mixture of both. He knows every face he sees, knows the families who will wait for them, knows the villages that will rejoice and grieve in the same breath. He dismounts. His boots sink into the mud. He walks without speaking, touching the shoulders of wounded men, bending to pick up the broken sword of a soldier he had known since boyhood. The wind brushes against him, carrying the faint scent of pine on wet stone. For a moment he closes his eyes. In that small silence he feels the truth he can't say aloud. This victory saves his homeland, but it does not save him. Beyond these mountains, messengers are already riding. They will reach Venice by nightfall, Rome soon after. Bells will ring. Priests will give thanks. Poets will write verses calling him the shield of Christendom, the lion of Albania, the man who stepped an empire. Europe will celebrate a miracle. But here, in this valley, nothing feels like a miracle. Only sacrifice. Only exhaustion. Only the quiet heartbeat of a land that has survived another day. In Constantinople the news will fall like a quiet stone. The Sultan will not rage. He will not shout. He will simply understand that an empire, no matter how vast, is not invincible. And in that understanding a scar will form. Skanderbeg looks toward the horizon where the fig begins to lift, revealing the sharp line of the mountains etched against the sky. The wind carries away the smoke. The light returns to the stones. For a brief moment, small as a breath, fragile as the wing of a bird, the world seems to pause with him. This is knit peace. He knows war will return. But standing in the valley his men have reclaimed, he feels something truer than victory. He feels the endurance of a people who refuse to kneel. And in that endurance he finds the strength to lift his sword once more, not in triumph, but in promise. If stories of courage, resilience, and forgotten battles move you, if moments like Albelina remind you what the human spirit can endure, stay with us. There are more echoes to uncover, more voices to restore, more hidden valleys where history changed the world. Subscribe and walk deeper into the past with us, because history survives only when we choose to remember.